Coming through 4 cancers, I felt like I owed a huge debt to the universe. I made it when others don't, and it was just the perfect outcome for me. I could be a part of a community, a village of people who were just brilliant, and, there's something called I don't know if you're familiar, called human-centered design, and Dr. Herbert A. Simon was the one who pretty much brought it to light, although it's been around forever. And it's taking a truly empathetic view of of the people that you're trying to help with the solution.
Are you curious about discovering ways of making your life better? Then welcome to my podcast. I'm Bob Nickman, and this is The Exploding Human. Listen in while I talk with all kinds of people in the fields of personal growth, health and healing, alternative therapies, psychology, spirituality, environment, and the future. I'm looking for those answers that make life better for everyone. You'll meet cutting-edge practitioners, doctors, artists, filmmakers, business people, and those who have overcome challenges. The brave, the curious, anyone who is out there helping us humans to explore, expand, and explode. Hi, welcome to the show. This is Bob Nickman, and that was Cinde Dolphin, a 4-time cancer survivor, who's going to be my guest today, and we're going to be talking to her in a minute. But first, I want to say that I have finally created a website, and I'd love for you to go there and visit. It is theexplodinghuman.com, TheExplodinghuman.com. Theexplodinghuman.com. It has all pictures of all my guests that I've had, all my episodes, synopses of the episode, a bio of myself if you're interested in finding out a little bit more about me, and some links to some social media, Facebook in particular. Check it out there also, The Exploding Human with Bob Nickman on Facebook. You could leave messages there. You can give me your email on the website. There's a form to fill out if you want to do that. I won't bombard you with anything. I'm not like that. I don't want to bother people that way, but if there's some important stuff, I'll send you a message from upcoming things. And also, there is a support the show on Patreon button. So push that button, and you can become a patron of The Exploding Human. $5 a month. That's about $1.25 an episode. And I can keep bringing these great guests and getting the message out there. And the message today is from Cinde Dolphin, who I said was a 4-time cancer survivor, and she created something through her trials and tribulations that is a method for patients to use post-surgery when there is an ongoing need to drain the surgical areas. Now, there is a device for that, but the method for which it is fastened to the clothing and the way it works was cumbersome and uncomfortable for patients. And Cinde took it upon herself to invent something, and she now sells it through her company. And more importantly, or equally as important, is the fact that she has become a advocate for patient-driven solutions, and has started to work with other people who are interested in that and coming up with things that maybe the medical supply houses and hospitals aren't making quite enough money to make it worth their time and effort, but these are important things that patients are coming up with themselves to help each other. And there's a whole community of these people, and she is a big advocate for this work. And really what this episode is about is empowerment and being of service to others. And that's what Cinde is all about. So check this out. This is Cinde Dolphin. First of all, Dolphin is your last name. Why is that?
I know, I didn't pick it. It came with my birth, so it's not a stage name, it's not a hippie name, it's a real name.
Yeah.
And the funny story that I tell people is when I went to college at San Diego State, and as every student has to, I worked a side gig, and it was at SeaWorld, and there was a dolphin in the show whose name was Cindy. So there was literally 2 Cinde Dolphins at
Oh,
SeaWorld at one time.
it's a great last name. It sounds like you should
It
be some
is.
sort of a artist or rock star.
Or a marine
Yeah,
scientist.
or a marine scientist. Yeah. So we're going to talk today about your path to what you're doing now, but you weren't always an entrepreneur in the with a medical device that you've invented, which we're going to talk about. But you were a marketing executive for the adult beverage industry. For how long did you do that?
Almost 3 decades. I did marketing for beer companies, national beer companies, regional wineries. It was a very fun gig, I have to say. Not a bad subject to have to market, but it got a little bit weary, and I felt like I was on a bit of a hamster wheel.
Yeah. Well, you're promoting things that
Yeah.
people want anyway.
Didn't have to twist
It's,
any
I
arms,
guess,
that's
yeah,
for
no,
sure.
not, yeah, being people want to get, have alcohol, but, I guess it's trying to stand out from the other alcohol, which is exactly the same thing in a different
Like, how do you
shaped can.
differentiate? Not much. There's not much different, but
Right.
it's all fun. Yeah.
Yes. Well, so you did that, you were doing that, and then you had a diagnosis of cancer. And so let's start with that because that's what's led you to where you are now.
Okay. So, yeah, I had a diagnosis of cancer initially in my lung, and it was one of the lungs were actually removed. It was a really rare cancer. It didn't have to do with lung cancer, but so that kind of woke me up that, wow, life is short, and I kind of need to do some things to appreciate life more. And then for the next 3 successive diagnoses, they were all breast cancer, I became more and more aware that my life needed to have some purpose to it. So after this last cancer, I really decided to take a break from the corporate world and figure out a way to help others who would be going through my same situation. And it just landed in my lap. It was really something that I couldn't believe that somebody else hadn't developed or thought about, but I did. And now it's being used in some pretty prestigious hospitals. So I'm really proud of that.
Well, you were telling me a little bit before the interview what is necessary with your type of surgery that a lot of people have this. How many, you said like 7 million people need a device like this, right?
Yeah, there's many procedures that require people to have what are called open wound care drains or Jackson Pratt drains. And they range from bariatric surgery, cardiovascular surgery, gender reassignment surgery. So when there is an intrusive surgery, they need to keep that surgical area clean of infection and prevent complications. So they insert a drain line and they attach that drain line to the patient's skin using sutures. And at the other end of the drain line is a soft, pliable bulb about the size of a grapefruit. And when it's collapsed and a cap put on it, it's airtight. And it's really a simple invention. Dr. Jackson and Dr. Pratt invented it, so it's called the Jackson Pratt drain. And it literally sucks fluids away from the surgical area, and it's effective. The problem is that even though this device was invented about 50 years ago, in the 50 years since its invention, the protocol for managing those drain bulbs hasn't changed. So these drain bulbs collect the fluid, which is really gross. It's like mucus and blood clots. And when you come out of your anesthesia, the nurse in the discharge area will give the patient a safety pin and tell them to pin these heavy fluid-filled bulbs to their clothing. And one, it's a real unattractive, but two, just not the best way to manage these drains. The safety pin is a sharp, which means it has the potential to um, communicate infections. And it also is used with a device that's 100% dependent on being airtight. So just not a good plan. And the poor caregivers who are in the hospital, when they have to empty these bulbs, the patient does too once they get home, but the nurses have to empty the bulbs usually 3 to 4 times a day and 2 or 3 times at night. So each time they have to unpin the bulbs, empty the fluid, measure it, and then repin the bulbs. So the last time I went to my surgery, I knew that I was going to have these pesky little drains. So I asked my surgeon if I could bring a Home Depot apron with me, and he agreed. And so rather than pinning the bulbs to my gown, the nurses put them in the pockets of the apron, and they loved it. They said they didn't need to master those stupid safety pins. It gave them access at night when they needed to empty those bulbs. And one nurse said, why don't they just issue a Home Depot apron to every patient that comes out of surgery, right? And it makes sense. But the problem was when it was time to bathe, you can't really wear the Home Depot apron in the shower, right? So I went home and I went to, this was kind of fun, I went to the dollar store and I started buying a bunch of those mesh laundry bags you use to throw in the washing
Oh
machine with
yeah, yeah,
delicate
yeah.
items.
Hmm.
Yeah, right? They're
Breathable
cheap.
and open and yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, yeah, it was perfect. So I started deconstructing them and reconstructing them and attaching long waist ties to them. And I came up with a prototype that was really pretty simple. It was essentially a mesh apron with a zipper closing that was able to fit anyone because it had really long ties, so that the patient could slip the bulbs into the pocket of the apron, and then when they needed to access them, it was easy to get to them. But it was also made out of mesh, so the patient could actually wear it into the shower or during bathing and just pat it dry when they come out. So super simple solution. I can't believe someone else didn't come up with it, but I did, and it works really well.
Yeah, see, like, I'm walking around and there's probably people that I'm encountering that have these bulbs. I don't know it, obviously, because it's under the clothes, obviously, right?
Right.
Yeah. But here's something that's just a big problem for a lot of people, and here's a simple solution. That's amazing. What are you calling your product?
So simply, it's a medical drain carrier, but I have a brand called Keely, and that has to do with the more global aspect of what I'm doing. Keely is what the locals in Tan- Tanzania and Kenya call Kilimanjaro. And after I survived all of these surgeries, I climbed Kilimanjaro. So there's a part of it that is in the brand name.
So it's KILI.
I,
That's your brand.
yeah, the brand is
Oh, wow.
KILI.
So you climbed Mount Kilimanjaro after 4 surgeries.
Yeah. Actually, I climbed the base camp. I didn't get to the
But
top, but it's still a very hardy, tough climb to do. And I made a beautiful connection while I was there. I was there to be a business advisor for a group of women in a microloan cooperative.
mm,
And they taught me way more than I taught them for sure. And I certainly wanted to honor them. Many of them are married to the porters that carry all the supplies up Kilimanjaro. And so it kind of represented the challenges that patients have when they're going through surgery. So that's why I incorporated the name in with the medical drain carrier.
and so you went there to just to see one to see if you could do it and
Yeah,
challenge yourself. It's almost like
yeah,
it's a healing of like I'm not debilitated. I can climb a mountain. I mean, just the
right.
metaphor alone is fantastic.
Yeah, but also to give back. I mean, coming through 4 cancers, I felt like I owed a huge debt to the universe. I made it when others don't. And it was just the perfect outcome for me. I could be a part of a community, a village of people who were just brilliant. And there's something called, I don't know if you're familiar, called human-centered design. And Dr. Herbert A. Simon was the one who pretty much brought it to light, although it's been around forever. And it's taking a truly empathetic view of of the people that you're trying to help with the solution, the problem, and coming and getting integrated into their lifestyle, their situation, in order to come up with the best possible solution. So these women are very good at human-centered design. They're terrifically empathetic. They feel that when there's a problem in their village or in their family, they all come together and come up with solutions. So this human-centered design, even though here in the US we talk about it a lot, it's really been in use in a lot of third world countries, is how you deal with your local problems. So when I told them about my situation and how patients here in the US were wearing these blood-filled bulbs pinned to them, even though the women that I worked with had never even had health care in their life, couldn't believe that that was something going on. So they went back to their little treadle sewing machines, and they came back to me with these beautiful, vibrant, bold fabric aprons that I could bring back to patients to use after surgery. So the same idea, but they wanted it to be in these, take a really bold stand on it and use these vibrant colored aprons to manage your drains. So it taught me a lot how we can be empathetic with others, even if we haven't been through the situation they have.
Wow, it just sounds really like beautifully intense. Is what I'm picturing there. And you were
Yeah.
helping them get loans for businesses for themselves?
Well, no, this is what is really, it's usually that way, but these women have created their own microloan group, and using just pennies, literally pennies every week to pool into an account, they were able to make small loans to each other that would allow them to buy seed for farming or buy a chicken, or just really small things that could make a difference, whether they were able to sustain their family. And then after making these aprons, which I was thrilled with, they formed a small business, and now I purchase the aprons from them and sell them here in the US. And the money they're earning from this small business is paying for school fees and farming supplies, and best of all, health care for their family. So it's mind boggling, but they're doing an amazing, wonderful job of helping their families get through.
That's amazing that you went there for one reason and this whole other thing came out of it.
Yeah, I think Providence, it
Ye-
was meant to be. It really was. It completes the circle of how we can help each other, and we just have to be open to it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, obviously that the cancer was a life changing perspective for you.
Yep, it
Being in the
was.
corporate world, and all of a sudden here's this thing that comes out of left field, and it not only just sort of rocked you in terms of your health, but in terms of your entire worldview.
Yeah, yeah, and it also opened my eyes to the fact that patients are really well equipped to come up with solutions around their own diagnosis. Maybe not the big high tech solutions, but the day to day stuff that many patients have to endure. I got to say, the big, commercial producers are working in a corporate environment, I know firsthand, in offices, and not understanding what it's like to be a patient. So, my medical team, although they were very qualified, didn't have to deal with octopus like contraptions attached to their body. So it didn't occur to them that there was a lot of stress involved with that. So I am now on a new kind of campaign where I hope to raise awareness that patients should be brought into the solution. They should have a seat at the table to talk about what would help them as they're going through their diagnosis.
How would that take place? In terms of, I'm sure there's a lot of patients that have these sort of simple issues like you had in turn. I mean, I don't. I mean, the cancer's not a simple issue, but the
No, no, I know what you mean,
yeah,
yeah.
but and it's like you ask your doctor, well, this is a pain in the butt, to have to pin things and walk around and not shower. What do I do? And they just go, I don't know. you know how do we get them to go, yeah, that's a really good question. Here's an organization that solves these problems. Here's an advocacy group. Is that the kind of thing you're trying to do? Because I mean, it just seems like there's probably a ton of stuff like that where you just go, what do I do? And the person goes, well, that's not my area, so I don't know.
Right.
Figure it out, or don't figure it out.
Well, there's a couple of different things. One is an interesting kind of paradigm that is changing. And you know how open source coding changed technology and opened up new doors for, moving technology further ahead so quickly because people were willing to offer it at no cost
Mm-hmm.
to just use. Well, there are some inventors that are saying, I'm going to tell you how we did it or how I did it, and you can go do it yourself. So there is a group of 3 patients, all with type 1 diabetes, who actually invented an artificial pancreas. And it delivers just the right amount of insulin 24/7, even when the patient is sleeping, it delivers insulin. And what they did is they created it out of software coding and off the shelf hardware, and they put the recipe for it online and said, we're not going to get approval through the FDA, but you can go ahead and make this yourself if you want, which I think is really, it's risky, but it's for some patients that don't have a solution. It might be the way they can come up with something that really helps them.
What's the risk part?
Well, the risk is if it doesn't work for them, they could be frustrated,
Oh.
or if they wire it wrong, I mean, that's the risk.
Oh, okay. That's what I thought you meant. I
Yeah.
wasn't sure. I thought you meant there was some legal risk to the people that put it up online.
Well, I mean, no, I don't know. There probably could be. I'm not a lawyer. I would hope that people would, understand this is meant to help you. If you, have an adverse effect, then, we're sorry, but we're trying to help. And then the other side of it, though, which is more commercial, but I think more viable as a possibility is, and I'm not paid by Amazon, so please don't take this as a sponsorship mention, but there is a business to business platform that Amazon has, and they just recently created a hospital supply vertical so that hospitals can order items on Amazon just like as consumers we order things online. And we've started listing our product on that platform as a way for hospitals to be able to sidestep the commercial suppliers and bring it right in without having to go through a catalog. And we couldn't even get in the catalog. Unfortunately, the big commercial suppliers don't want to carry really low budget items because they don't make money off of it.
Mm.
So this was the one way we could find a way to connect with those buyers of hospitals to learn that there are other solutions than what they see in the catalog. So not saying I think it's the be all end all answer, but I do think that by independent inventors looking at these kind of platforms, we might be able to get further ahead than just knocking on the door of hospitals.
I didn't even know that existed, so that's super valuable information.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting because hospitals maintain huge warehouses to maintain inventory, and that's a huge cost to the bottom line. If they're able to order online and get it just in time, that could save them a whole lot of money.
Yeah.
You'll
Wow.
see. I don't know. It's interesting. The one really bright light about it, it's being run by someone, I don't know if you're familiar with Atul Gawande. He has written a couple of books, and it's really changing paradigms in the medical world. But he's going to be running it. He's part of Amazon, and his forward thinking, I think, could set this up to be the new way of dealing with medical supply distribution.
And also probably keeping the price reasonable because there's so much stuff in the medical world that it's just so outrageously overpriced.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to throw them under the bus, but medical supply distributors are, looking at their bottom line and their stockholders, and that's how they determine pricing.
Yeah.
So people like me, I literally am barely making money off of the pricing of mine, but to me, it's more important that patients get this than making a lot of money. I really am in it to improve the outcome for patients. And I feel really good about that. And I can't say all the commercial suppliers have the same intent.
Well, of course they don't.
Oh, okay, I'm not naive then. All right.
It's just, yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, it's it's a business, and the products are just sort of the afterthought. I think a lot of times in those businesses, it's like, what are we making on this? What are we making on that? What it's and if you don't have the actual problem, you're not going to care in the same way that somebody that does.
Right, right,
Are
right.
you working on other things too, or is this just the one thing that you're starting with, and you're going to see what happens?
Yeah, I'm going to start with this. What I'd like to do is form a cooperative, if you will, of other patients that have solutions so we can have critical mass and a little bit more influence in the medical world. And I'm not sure how to do that. I just attended a really amazing conference at Stanford University, and there were a lot of people that were like-minded there. And I've met some people that are interested in pulling together. There's an organization called Patient United, and it's really, coalescing the patient community to come up with solutions that aren't even being thought of because they're not revenue generating, but they're solutions that make a difference to patients.
I
So,
love that idea.
yeah, I do too. I think there's some opportunities to really drive a whole new way of doing healthcare if we listen to patients.
Yeah, I think what's happening, and I hope this is what's happening, is that the idea of holistic, and I'm not talking about alternative necessarily, but holistic care for patients and understanding patient needs has become, it's a whole field, advocacy, and um, finding out how to helping patients to navigate the medical system. For a while there was that didn't even seem to exist. It was just you were either had insurance and you knew how to sort of navigate, uh, but then there's also even a lot of the hospitals have patient advocacy groups there.
Hmm.
Some are volunteer, some are paid. My daughter does one up in Oakland. She does volunteer work at one of them.
Oh, neat. Good
And
for her.
yeah, she really likes it. I mean, because there's people that come in, they can't really navigate, and she helps them and shows them, resources and where to go and how to figure it out. It's because it's not easy.
Oh, hardly easy. And that's if you have insurance. What about if you don't have insurance? I mean, that's a whole different egg to crack, but people who are helping out those who just don't even have a solution once they're diagnosed. There are patient navigators who are working with people to help them through this crisis and not even having the assistance of a provider or healthcare plan giving you direction.
Yeah.
It's a really tough deal.
Well, I love that I'm going to say spearheading because I like that word.
Okay.
Something to help people just at a grassroots level. That's just amazing.
I think there's a lot of us out there. I think that if we can bring each other together, we'll have a much louder voice. But I see there's, the hospital administrators of the country say their top priority is the patient experience. And if that's true, then let's get on board. I mean, imagine how fulfilling it would be if you were a patient and your inspiration led to a paradigm change that actually improved the medical outcome for those that had a similar diagnosis.
Yeah.
That would be patient experience A plus, right? So let's start giving some opportunities to patients to. There's a great quote from my oncologist actually, and he said, equipping a patient with the knowledge that their creation improved the medical outcome for others not only helps the patient, but helps them in the healing process. So the meaning that as I help others, I'm healing myself as well as I'm helping others.
The idea of taking the focus just off of yourself and putting it on other people has a very healing aspect to it. 'Cause when you're thinking about yourself all day, it's not as it's easy to go down the rabbit hole, you know,
Right.
when
The
you're
self-pity, why did it happen to me?
yeah.
And I feel like somebody said, well, why not you? And why not make it so that it's better for others? So that's when I jumped on the bandwagon. And I hope it does. I know it does. I've gotten really wonderful feedback from people and surgeons who say this can help people and make a difference in their recovery.
Yeah. And how are you feeling these days?
Ah, thanks. I'm great.
Good.
Yeah.
I'm happy to hear that.
Yeah, me too. Trust me, I'm
Right.
happier than anyone.
Yeah.
But yeah, you always wonder when you have it 4 times. It's like, okay, the other shoe's going to drop anytime now. But knock on
Absolutely. I
wood.
would be, it's like, I mean, it really probably heightens your day to day appreciation for being alive, I would imagine, just and to be feeling good.
Yeah, yeah, that's why you go, you're bigger risk taker because you're like, I don't know what's going to happen again. I'll go to Africa. I'll go climb Kilimanjaro. I'll do half dome. Even if you can't do physical challenges, you're willing to risk your heart more because you don't know when the bus is going to slam into you. So take that heart and go do something good with it.
I want to know all the cool shit you've done.
I haven't done that much cool shit,
Yeah, okay.
but I do believe in being a here. I've fostered over 3 dogs, and I work with youth at risk, youth in the foster care system. I'm a mentor to a young person who is in the system who is transgender and has challenges. So, but I've been doing work with at-risk youth for a very long time. I feel like as we're going crazy over mass shootings, we need to come back and look at what we're doing for young people when they're reaching a point where they're scared, they're lonely, they're isolated, and they feel this is the solution. So, yeah, so I'm doing some work with at-risk youth, and I feel really good about that too.
Well, you're so amazing. I'm feeling that I'm not.
No, you are. You are. Part of all of this is you have to be able to laugh, and you're giving people wonderful feel good around, serious issues, but helping them laugh through it too.
Well,
So,
yes. I mean, I think that this is why I'm doing the podcast. I really love to get this kind of information out to as many people as possible because there's so, there's not that many outlets for these kinds of hopeful and overcoming challenges kinds of things. And there's so many people doing so much good stuff that you don't hear about in mainstream media that I think it's an important thing to bring out for people. And I'm
well,
always just so touched by what people do. I'm just, it kind of blows me away every time I meet somebody on one of these interviews. I'm like, wow, how did you do this? And it's most of the interviews I do, I feel like like I'm so glad I got it out there. But what am I doing other than getting out what great people are doing?
that's key,
Is
but
it?
you gotta do that. That's so important. So
Okay.
please do not discount your role. You are doing an important part of this, and that's communicating it.
Okay, I'll feel better.
No, please do. Serious.
Yeah.
I really believe podcasts are number one in my book. I love podcasts, but two, doing it in a way that's not so dark and serious and getting really good information out to an audience that sometimes just needs to be entertained and in between it get a good message and do something new and different in their lives because of it.
Yeah, I mean, I think if somebody hears this and they go, "Oh, I heard this podcast and they were talking about this apron for these drainage bulbs, and I know somebody that has that, and so that may actually change somebody's day-to-day life." That
Absolutely,
would be
absolutely.
amazing. If
Yeah.
that happens
Well,
out there, please let me know.
I will let you know when I get that order and tell you about it, okay?
Yeah, how'd you find out about us? Oh, a podcast. The
Yeah.
Exploding Human
See,
Podcast.
Bob, you are making a difference. Truly. It takes
Gosh, I hope
all of
so.
us.
I mean, that's why
Yeah.
I started doing it. But here I am, like I'm interviewing you, and I'm bringing out my own insecurities. I guess
Uh,
that makes me a little bit more human, right?
it does.
Yeah.
Please. Yeah. I have insecurities all over the place. Trust me.
Of course, we all do, right?
Yeah. Yeah. We'd be boring otherwise.
I think so. Wow, what an amazing thing! Do you have a website people can go
Yes.
to learn more and purchase and do all kinds of wonderful things? Okay,
I have one for the medical drain carrier, and that is medicaldraincarrier.com. And then I also have one for the aprons made by the women in Africa, and that's KilimanjaroCarriers.com. So plural, KilimanjaroCarriers.com.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, you can purchase these individually. They're a wonderful gift, either one or both are a wonderful gift. Instead of sending flowers to someone who's diagnosed with cancer, give them something they could use that will help them recover. And, they've determined that the sooner a patient is mobile, the faster their recovery. So if I can get patients from the bed and standing vertical and moving around, there's a pretty good chance that they're going to recover faster than if they just stayed in their bed. So, what a wonderful gift for someone who is going to go through surgery and help them recover a little bit faster.
I'm very touched by what you're doing and how you've gone from a challenge to somebody that is giving more to the world. That's incredible.
Thank you, but there are many of us out
Yes,
there, and
well, yeah, but we're on you today.
okay, it's all about me.
Pat yourself on the back.
Oh,
She did.
yeah,
She
okay, I
actually
will.
did it, everybody. She reached
I
back
did.
and patted herself. Well, so
Yeah.
check out her websites, plural. And I hope you can. I'm going to, after I edit this, I'm going to send you a link, and I hope you put it on your website so people can
Oh,
hear more
hell
about
yeah.
you.
I'm going to put it out there on all our social media platforms because it's very ironic that people think they can't change the system. If they're given a safety pin, they have to use a safety pin. And part of this is educating people, shake it up. You don't have to use a safety pin. You can come up with use something else, but don't just go with what they give you. There's no need to have a safety pin anywhere near a recovering patient. So thank you. I hope I can get the word out there.
Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you. You too. Bye bye.
That was Cinde Dolphin. So happy to interview her. What a great person. And thank you guys for listening in to The Exploding Human. And please check out my website. Yes, theexplodinghuman.com. 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 And if you'd like to support the show, there's a button to click on there, and you can do that. I would really appreciate that. So have a great day, and we'll see you again.